Why I chose the Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument located in Birmingham Lynn Park, Alabama. As you may know, this monument has been the subject of much debate and controversy in recent years, due to its connection to the Confederacy and its association with slavery and white supremacy. I chose to focus on this particular monument because it provides a compelling case study of the ongoing debates around Confederate monuments in the United States. As we will see, the monument's history and symbolism raise important questions about the relationship between memory, history, and power, and the role of public art and commemoration in shaping our collective identity. In this presentation, I aim to provide a historical and cultural analysis of this monument to explore the different perspectives on its meaning and significance, and to examine the political and social implications of its removal or preservation. By doing so, I hope to share on the complex and often continuous issues surrounding Confederate monuments and to offer a fair and informed perspective on this important topic. The Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument, located in Lynn Park, Birmingham, Alabama, was erected in 1905 by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. The UDC was an organization founded in 1894 by women who had family members that served in the Confederate military during the American Civil War. The group was dedicated to preserving the memory of and legacy of the Confederacy, as well as promoting the idea of the lost cause, an interpretation of the war that dedicated the Confederacy as a noble and heroic cause, and downplayed the role of slavery as a cause of the conflict. The monument features a statue of the Confederate soldier standing atop a 52-foot-tall pedestal, with inscriptions that detail the names of Confederate generals in battles. The creation of the monument was part of a larger trend of Confederate monument building that occurred in the United States in the decades following the Civil War. These monuments were often funded and erected by groups like the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and were intended to promote a particular interpretation of the war that emphasized Southern heritage and the integrity of the Confederacy. The monument in Birmingham reflects the lost cause principles, which portrayed the Confederacy as a noble and just cause, and sought to idolize the South's culture and ways of life. This interpretation of history has been criticized for ignoring the brutal reality of slavery and racism that underpin the Confederacy. In recent years, the monument has become a subject of controversy, as many people have called for its removal due to its association with the Confederacy and its support of white supremacy. So on June 8, 2020, the Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument at Lynn Park, Birmingham, Alabama, was taken down, following weeks of protests and instability around the country in response to the police shooting of George Floyd and other African Americans. The monument was taken down. Mayor of Birmingham, Randall Woodfin, made the decision to take down the monument, claiming its needs to address the history of racism and pressure in the city. A large portion of Birmingham City Council, as well as numerous neighborhood activists and community people who had long pressed for the monument's removal. Those who support the monument's preservation often argue that it is part of Alabama's heritage and history, and that its removal would be an ensure of that history. However, critics argue that the monument's symbolism perpetuates a harmful and inaccurate view of history, and that its removal is necessary to move towards a more inclusive and fair society. One article, The Lost Cause and the Meaning of History, by Grace Elizabeth Hales, is related in the sense that it is on the legacy of the Confederacy and its impact on American history and memory. Hales' article explores the historical myth of the lost cause, which was a post-Civil War narrative created by white Southerners to justify their defeat and idolize the Confederacy. The lost cause principle shows the Confederacy as a heroic and noble cause, highlighting the valor and bravery of Confederate soldiers and downplaying the role of slavery and racism in the Civil War. Hill argues that the lost cause had a profound impact on American society and culture, influencing everything from politics and writings to popular culture and race relations. The Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument in Lynn Park, Birmingham is a physical manifestation of the lost cause, as it was commissioned by the United Daughters of the Confederacy to honor Confederate soldiers and sailors and memorize the ideal of the Confederacy as a heroic and honest cause. The monument reflects the ongoing struggle over the legacy of the Confederacy in American memory and the ways in which that memory has shaped the nation's history and identity. Another article that is similar is The Long Civil War, a historiography of the consequence of the Civil War by Aaron Sheehan Dean. This article relates to the other in that they both deal with the legacy of the Civil War and its impact on American history and memory. Sheehan Dean's article is a historiography that explores the ways in which historians have analyzed the consequences of the Civil War over time. He argues that there have been three distinct periods of historical understanding of the Civil War: the direct post-war period, the progressive era, and the modern era. Sheehan Dean also discusses the ways in which the Civil War has been remembered and observed throughout American history, including the erection of Confederate monuments and the development of the lost cause. The Confederate Soldiers and Sailors Monument in Lynn Park, Birmingham is a physical manifestation of the ways in which the Civil War has been remembered and observed in American history. As a monument to Confederate soldiers and sailors, it reflects the lost cause and the valorization of the Confederacy that was apparent in the primary post-war and progressive era periods. The monument is also a subject of debate in the modern era, as many argue that it perpetuates a narrative and downplays the role of slavery and racism in the Civil War. Overall, both the monument in Lynn Park and Sheehan Dean's article are part of a larger conversation about the legacy of the Civil War and how it has been remembered and analyzed throughout American history.